Go. And welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ema. Hello, Ema.
Hi, hello everybody, and how's Saji? How's my little sweetness? My son is trying to guide the technologically impaired through the usage of the latest technology. And what happened was we had this I had this microphone and audio thingy that I had gotten a few months ago, and it looks like something went wrong with one of the wires on. I think the cat chewed it up or something. But so I came across a little card that's supposed to be the free 2-year warranty, and I asked Saadia, how do I scan this little thing, this little squiggly thingy with the boxes and the like all these like little mixed up little dots and everything. And what did you say that was called?
It's a QR code, Ema. Can you show me? Can you show it to me through video?
QR code. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's a
it's a Q.
QR code.
I just call it the squiggly thingy.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking of taking a QR code and maybe like on your take all the podcasts that we have and like accumulate them over the years, and then after all the years, kind of put them on a QR code, and then put them in the back of your gravestone, and then someone could just scan it and then get all the podcasts that you've ever had.
Now I remember. Remember, we were trying to figure out. We were trying to remember what we were discussing as what would be the topic, and that's what the topic was. We were talking about um, graveyards catching up to modern technology. The graveyards are really behind the times, and we were talking about also the idea of maybe having like a video, on someone's tombstone, so they can see actual videos of what this person said and did, whatever. And there's also what some of these museums have, where you buy one of these little boxies. What do you call them? Walkie-talkie boxies.
It's like
How
it's
would
like
you
a
call them?
voice. It's a headphone listening device.
Right. And you would be able, like, you would be able to press on it, and as you pass by each tombstone, they could tell you something about the person. And actually they could save it, they could sell it at the graveyards, and the money would be used for the upkeep of the graveyard. Don't you think it's a great idea?
I think it'd be a good idea, but I think it would just be. See, the biggest thing you have to understand is it has to have very little upkeep, but still be worth like a lot in the long run. Because like to have a video being played on a grave site, I think would cost too much money, and would be you really have to keep everything also waterproof. You're gonna have to keep it waterproof. You're gonna have to, you know, what would you have? Would you have a projection maybe? Like you have a projection in the graveyard?
No, what happened? You could actually have I say it. It would it would be inside the tombstone. Of course, it would have to be protected. It'd be inside. It would be a screen that was inside, and I guess you could have. Well, I'm still thinking in terms of VCRs, but we don't
Yeah.
do VCRs anymore. So what would
Well,
you how would you put that on a tombstone? Would you have a chip,
well,
computer chip with a screen or something?
I would even do it that way. I would think that in the future you would have, I guess, a small tiny light that would be a projection. Maybe they use LEDs, but the problem is that, like, how long will those last? And like you want to deal with shelf life. You want to see, like, it's cool for like the first couple of years, but then over time, will it deteriorate? You know,
Good
that's why
question.
that's the other thing you got to worry about. You got to worry about deterioration. Um, but I would think in the future they would probably have some small tiny bead of an LED that projects, you know, in a way like some kind of either hologram or onto a screen, just a little quip or a little hello, or the question is also, you have to think about is audio too. Is it going to be silent, or is it going to
Mhm.
have audio? And if it's audio, you're going to have speakers.
Yeah, of course you'd have audio. Can you imagine if I wonder if some undertakers listening to this and thinking about this might be a great idea. Actually, I like the idea better instead of the video. Like you said, the hologram. Now that would really be eerie to see the hologram of the individual that passed away, and they said, "Hello, I'm such and such, and I'm telling you about my life, and this is what I did."
Yeah, but they would have to record themselves saying that, or there had to be enough information on them digitally that they can recreate like that projection, I think. That's why I like the QR code thing. The QR code is doable nowadays. Like if you have a QR code and somebody scans it with their phone, and then it takes them to, the person's whole long epilogue or their whole story or a YouTube video or something. And the design of the QR code is really sleek anyway, so it's just like an extra design. But you put that on maybe the back of the headstone, not so much the front, but the back of the headstone, and someone could scan it in.
Hmm.
I think that could be really cool. I think that's something more doable, more
Ah,
realistic.
yeah, because you still have to think about it. Graveyards really have not caught up with the 21st century.
They haven't caught up since the who knows what century. It's always been the same old thing: 6 feet under with a stone on top, telling you here lies such and such, who was such and such, and a story. And it's been like that for like thousands of years. Except
Well,
for you
mhm.
have pyramids, which were pretty intense. And back in the day, during the times of the first and second temple, I think they let the bodies kind of lie there in like in I wouldn't say a cave, but yeah, like in a cave or something, and they leave them there for a year, and then they take the bones and put them in a box.
What?
That's what
Who
they would
did
do.
this? Is this in Egypt?
No, this was in
Was
Israel
it- Oh my gosh!
back in the day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You know, biblical era,
Yes,
biblical
biblical
times.
era.
Wow,
Yeah, and I
now
want
that would be
to.
now that would be an interesting history to study. I'm sure there's got to be history books written about this, about the history of society, of cultures dealing with their dead, the
Yeah,
disposal of their dead.
yeah. How I mean, like you, like you have the Vikings who would send, you know, I don't know if it was just warriors or it was anybody, but
Yeah, it was
you'd
their
have
hero. It was their heroes, like the big heroes, big warriors.
they'd
Yeah.
send them in ships and then burn the ship, and then shoot like a fiery arrow into the ship and have the whole ship
Mhm.
like deteriorate and fall. And then of course it's like the northern, countries where it's super super cold, where you can't really, you know, bury the bury the dead. That there's, they believe in cremation. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I
Well, if you want to
always
get real ghoulish, your one of your uncles was telling me that when his father passed away, that they're from Hazleton, Pennsylvania. It's up there in the Poconos, and it was in the wintertime. He said, "Would you believe that the undertaker actually had to use explosives to
wow.
blast away the ground so they could bury his father because it was frozen solid?"
I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, it is pretty. I mean, it is pretty cold, and I know with studying architecture that you have about 36 inches down, before the frost level doesn't exist, where there's like you got 3 feet of pure frozen ground. You gotta get past before there's soft soil.
And talk about ghoulish conversation.
What happened to your mind? What?
No, the whole conversation was this. I don't know, it's kind of like this little curiosity that people have about. I don't know that when they discuss about the dead,
Well, when
like
when
like
you're
like in Mexico, they have that custom in Mexico where they have an entire day dedicated to the dead, and they eat this bread called it's called naan bread,
interesting.
where it's supposed to be it's a round bread that they eat that's supposed to be in memory of the dead, and it's a whole celebration
Well,
that they have.
what was your first experience handling? I guess it was your father that passed away first, correct?
Were you talking in general in my
In general, in your life,
I think it was
in
my
general.
grandparents. My first experience was my mother's father passed away when I was 8 years old, and he died of a heart attack. He smoked he smoked very heavily, and he was overweight, and he died when he was 60 years old. But in those days, early 1950s, 60, 65 was actually average life expectancy.
Wow.
Hmm. And I just remember, it's of course, for a young kid, I remember crying because I liked him. I loved him very much. We, were
Aw.
pretty close to each other. Yeah.
You never said that. You never told me any of that.
Oh. Well, there
Well,
was never any
how are
opportunity
you
to
close?
talk.
How are you close to your grandfather? What did you guys do?
Um, well, he was. Oh, he was the one I told you the story. The Ting story.
Oh, the Ting. Oh, that was
Yeah,
your.
that was him with the Ting. The Ting. When
Oh,
I was spending the day at his house, and we were
would
watching a movie. Should I repeat the story in
no, no,
case
no. It's
for
okay. We already
listeners
have
who
a
haven't
recording.
heard it?
Well, yeah,
I
it's
said,
already been recorded. We already heard it.
yeah, but maybe for listeners who haven't heard it, that's
No, they can check out the episode.
But
No,
okay,
no, they don't. They don't
thanks.
get to listen to it anymore. No, sorry.
No, it's a
You
funny
want to listen
story.
to it?
It's worth
You want to
repeating.
listen to it? You got to sift through all the other podcasts that we talked about. And if you're a devoted listener, good for you.
It's true. Let me just tell it for
No,
somebody who's a new
no, I
listener.
refuse. I
Yeah,
refuse.
please. Come on, it's a funny
No,
story. Funny story. Go, let me tell it.
I don't want
Let me
repetition.
tell it. The Ting story.
No, we're moving on to something else. Continue.
I'm going to tell the Ting story.
I'll tell it. Turns out
No,
he kept on
I
calling
tell
it
it
the
better than
Ting.
you.
Turns out the whole story was basically about the movie called The Thing, and he had no idea he called it The Ting. And then it was a scary movie from the 1950s, which they did a remake in the 1980s, and actually was a very good remake. I don't know if it was called classic or whatnot, but it got good reviews and people liked it.
So anyway, so what happened was I was like 4 years. I think I was 3 years old or 4 years old. I couldn't read, and so when the title came up on the screen, I asked my Zadie, who was from Poland, what's the name of the movie? He says it's The Ting. So I came home, and of course, my mother asked me, "What did you and Zadie do today?" I said, "Well, we watched a movie." And she goes, "Okay." He gave me lunch, and we watched the movie. Okay. So, and then I said to my mother, "What's a ting?" And my mother says, "A ting?" I said, "Yes." I said, "Zadie and I watched a movie called The Ting." So my mother's thinking, she goes, "The Ting, the Ting, the Ting," and then she burst out laughing and said, "The Thing."
So, what other stories did you have with your grandfather that the one that you were very close with?
Zadie, uh, pretty much just I remember him just little things like me being on his lap and him bouncing me around, the type of thing.
How old were you?
Yeah, I was like 2, 3 years old, something like that. 4, yeah.
How old were you when he passed away?
I think I was like 8 years old when he passed away.
Oh, okay.
Maybe younger. Hmm.
Wow. And he's the one that came in fresh off the boat.
Both of them, both of my grandfathers did.
Yeah, no, I'm saying.
Yeah, actually, all my grandparents were from came over from Europe before World War One. The only I'm trying to think. We thought my grandmother was born here, but she wasn't. We found out that she was just 2 years old when her family came over from. We thought they were Polish, but my sister looked it up in the records and found out no, that they were actually from Hungary.
So, did they live in shtetls or did they live in like cities?
I know my bubby lived in a shtetl. That I know for sure, because she came from way up north, Belarusia, Szlotsk, which is northern Poland,
Oh, cool.
right next to the Russia. In those days, was part of Russia. It's one of these disputed territories that goes between Russia and Poland. And we know for sure she lived in a shtetl. And my Zadie, my mother's father, was from Warsaw. So I don't think he was from a shtetl. I think he was.
Oh, wow, he came from Warsaw.
I think he actually came, from the city.
Wow.
And my other grandfather, Mariupol is a very small city right outside of Kiev, but I think it was a shtetl. He told us the only story he told us from Russia was he told us about one time one of the Goysher farmers who liked the Jews very much came and warned them about the Goyim plotting a pogrom for that night and gave them time to all clear out of the village. And when they came back, everything was just totally wrecked. Then another time he told me that it was a meeting of the Bolsheviks. He was invited to join in the woods. And so he was, curious, and he came to, to see what the meeting was all about, and said the Cossacks came and broke it up.
Wow. Dang.
But he when after Stalin took power, he saw what the communists were all about and wanted no part of them. And my father tells me a story that one time one of his friends from the old country came to visit him, and he tried to convince my grandfather to join. At that time, this is like 1920s, the Communist Party that was just getting started. And my grandfather, who had heard reports about what Stalin was doing, was dead set against it. And he yelled at this man and he said, "You know what it's like under this new Stalin government. You say one thing wrong and they'll cut your throat." And he yelled at the guy just to get out of his house.
Wow. I had no idea. Well, that's really cool. I know. So interesting.
I'll tell you something, another interesting story that I heard from one of my cousins. When we study history, we study about all these horrible kings and dictators, but we don't really think about the human side of it, like the real effect it had on the psyche of the people living under these regimes. And my cousin tells me, this was during the 1930s when he was in high school. He worked part-time after school in a shoe repair factory. And no shoe, they were making shoes. I'm sure it was actually a shoe factory where they produced shoes. And he said this elderly man sitting next to him was from Russia. And of course, had been a young man during the time of the Tsarist government. So this man sitting next to him, as he was hammering away on the shoes with the rhythm of the hammer going, up and down, would sing this Russian song. And as he was singing this Russian song, he would hammer away and hammer away. And my cousin said, to quote him, "This song was a real toe tapper. It was a very rhythmic song." He said he didn't know what the words meant, but it was a good song. So he said one day he was at home in the kitchen doing something with his father. His father, of course, was my Zadie's brother, the one from Warsaw, my mother's side. And my cousin told me he started singing this Russian song. And his father, of course, being from Poland, who knew Polish and Russian. Hello? Oh gosh.
Yeah, no, you're.
My battery is going. Who knew it very well. All of a sudden got red in the face, and in true Polish fashion, took off his belt and started chasing my cousin. My cousin ran out the window and up the fire escape to the apartment where my Zadie and my mother's family were living. They lived above them and the next floor. And he ran over to my Zadie and he told my Zadie what happened. He says, "Why was my father so angry? He started chasing me with a belt. He started beating me." He says, he said, "What did I say? What did I say?" So my Zadie said to him, "Well, sing the song." So he started to sing the song, and my Zadie cracked up laughing and laughing. He says, "You sang that?" He says, "Yeah." He said, "What did it mean?" It was an X-rated graphic song about Tsar Nicholas II. The chorus, I don't know all the details, but it was not exactly a nice song. But the chorus went that M for Nikolai, that M for Nikolai. And when I heard the story, it just occurred to me like, people, you would do stuff like this because the government was so oppressive. And there was so much hatred towards the government, and you couldn't express it. You couldn't print anything. You couldn't get on, any talk show. You weren't free to express yourself. So people among themselves would make up these dirty songs about the Tsar.
Now I'm curious to see if I could find it.
Dirty song about Tsar Nicholas II.
That is Tsar Nicholas II. Songs, I guess. There's a Yiddish song about Tsar Nikolai.
Maybe that was it. How does it? What's the translation?
I could play it, but whatever. Song about St. Nicholas II. Yeah, it's just oral history, so it's just somebody singing it, but there's no other lyrics to it. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really cool. That's what do you have any other stories about your grandfather?
Um, I think well, about my father's father. Um, my father tells me that during the 1930s, he was like one of the few people on. Well, he was like a vendor in Baltimore. He sold fruits and vegetables and kosher killed chickens, and from a truck. And there was a new Russian immigrant that came into the neighborhood, and he wanted to basically do the same thing, but he felt he really needed to ask my grandfather's permission first, since he felt he was, like this was his territory. And my grandfather was so nice. My grandfather said to him, yeah, he gave him permission and said, there's room enough in this city for both of us.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, I mean, he could have been real mean about it and said, no, this is my territory. But no, he says, go ahead. He told the man, please go ahead. It's all right.
That's awesome. All right, and that concludes Jewish Boy Calls His Mother for tonight. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it.
Okay, have a good Shabbos, honey. Love you.
All right, love you too. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. Please like and share and find us on Facebook at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast. We are looking forward to hearing from you.